Hey everyone. Before we dive into today's story, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from and what time it is there. It really helps YouTube recommend more stories like this one to you. Alright, let's jump right in.
The first thing I noticed was the smell. It hit me the second I opened the door. Not rotting, not mold exactly, just stale. Like a room that had been locked up for too long. The kind of air that feels thick, like it's been exhaled too many times without being refreshed. I stood in the entryway of my new apartment, holding two moving boxes, already regretting everything. But it was cheap. Dirt cheap, especially for a one-bedroom in a city like this. I had to take it. I was 2 months behind on rent at my last place, and my phone was full of final warning emails from every utility company imaginable. The landlord, Mitch, was too laid back. The kind of guy who wore sandals in winter and didn't blink when I asked if I could move in the next day. When I toured the place, he just gave me the keys and said, "Check it out. You'll see why it's a deal." I should have known that was a red flag. The unit was on the second floor of an old triplex. Wood floors, old radiator heaters, and way too many light switches that didn't do anything. But the strangest part, the part that made my stomach twist even before I moved in, was the door at the end of the hallway. It didn't match the others. All the other doors were cheap and hollow core, like they'd crack if you slammed them too hard. But that one? It was solid wood, heavy looking, painted over several times. The knob was old brass and locked tight. No key. No explanation. And Mitch never mentioned it. I spent my first night there unpacking and trying to ignore the door. I couldn't stop glancing at it, even when I was in the kitchen. I'd catch myself looking down the hallway like it might open on its own. It wasn't just the door, it was the feeling around it. The hallway got colder the closer I got to it, no matter how high I turned up the heat. Like it was sealed off from the rest of the apartment. Like something behind it was preserving its own little ecosystem. Around 2 a.m. I was finally falling asleep on my mattress on the floor when I heard it. A click, soft, almost like fingernails on metal. I sat straight up. Silence. I got up, heart hammering, and crept to the hallway. The light over the hallway flickered as I approached the locked door. I reached out slowly and touched the knob. Ice cold. I stood there, hand hovering, just listening. Nothing. I convinced myself it was just old pipes. Old buildings make sounds. It wasn't a big deal, but the next morning, I noticed something that was a big deal. The door had scratches. Tiny ones. Just at the bottom of the frame, like someone had been scraping at it from the other side with their fingernails, or trying to claw their way out. I tried to call Mitch that day. Went straight to voicemail. Left a message asking about the door. No response. That night, I didn't sleep. I turned on every light in the apartment and stayed up watching TV on my laptop, trying to drown out the feeling that something was awake behind that door, watching me. At 3:12 a.m., I heard it again. Click. Followed by a low creak-like pressure on the wood. I grabbed the flashlight on my phone and tiptoed down the hall. This time, the doorknob was wet. Not dripping, just damp. Like someone had held it in a sweaty hand for a long time. I felt sick. I wanted to leave. Pack up, break the lease, sleep in my car if I had to. But then I swear to God, I heard something from the other side of the door. A breath, slow, steady, and right up against the door, like someone's mouth was only inches away from the wood. The next day, I skipped work and drove straight to the leasing office. But it wasn't there. The address Mitch had given me was just a UPS drop box in a strip mall. No office, no building, nothing. He was gone. And the lease? Totally fake. I'd signed a printed PDF on a clipboard. I paid him in cash. He could have been anybody. That night, I did something stupid. I tried to open the door. I spent almost an hour picking at the lock with hairpins and screwdriver bits, but it wouldn't budge. It was like it wasn't a real lock, more like a bolt from the inside. At some point, I got frustrated and slammed my hand against it. The door made a sound, like a breath. A reaction. And then I heard it. A whisper, right next to my ear, just one word. Please. I jumped back so fast I tripped over a box and cracked my elbow on the floor. I didn't sleep that night. Or the night after that. By the third day, I was seeing things. Shadows at the edge of the hallway. A figure standing in the mirror behind me, vanishing the second I turned around. The lights flickering when I passed the locked door. My phone wouldn't hold a charge. My clocks kept resetting. Everything in the apartment felt warped off by a few degrees. I could feel someone else's sadness soaking into the walls. I started checking into hotels just to get a night of real sleep. But every time I came back, the feeling was worse. A week later, I lost it. I bought a crowbar from the hardware store and went straight for the door. I wasn't going to live in fear anymore. If someone was locked in there, trapped, abandoned, dead, I needed to know. It took me 20 minutes to break the frame apart. When the door finally gave way, it didn't open. It just stopped resisting. I pushed it open, expecting darkness, dust, rot, but instead, I found something worse. The room was perfect, immaculate, clean, like no one had ever set foot inside. White walls, no furniture, one overhead light bulb that buzzed gently, a single window painted shut. The air was dry and freezing, like a meat locker. But the part that messed me up? There were scratches on the inside of the door, thousands of them. Fingernails, claw marks, desperate little gouges in the wood, all centered around the doorknob. And in the center of the floor, there was a single item, a Polaroid photo of me. Standing in the hallway, looking at the door. Part 2. I froze, staring at the Polaroid like it might move. It wasn't just me in the picture. That was already nightmare fuel. But the timestamp in the corner made it worse. It was from the night before. I was wearing the same hoodie, the same sweatpants, and I remembered standing in that exact spot in the hallway. But I'd been alone. I was certain I was alone. My skin prickled. My knees felt weak. I dropped the photo like it burned me and stumbled back into the hall. The second my foot crossed the doorway, the temperature changed, warm again. Normal, like the cold room was its own sealed world. I slammed the broken door shut. Pointless but instinctive. My phone was at 70% when I turned on the flashlight. The clock said 8:03 p.m. Breathing hard, I called the police. I rehearsed what to say. There's a hidden room. Someone's been inside. There's a picture of me. But when the operator answered, my voice cracked. It sounded like I was making everything up, even to myself. Someone's living in my apartment, I managed. I think he's been watching me. The operator said officers were on the way. I hung up and backed into the living room, keeping my eyes locked on that door. My heart wouldn't slow down. I was sweating and shivering at the same time. It was quiet for about 5 minutes. Then something scraped behind the wood. Slow, deliberate, like nails dragging across the inside of the door. I ran. I waited. Outside the triplex, hands shaking, staring up at the dark windows. When the cops finally arrived, I basically dragged them in, but the room was different. The scratches were gone. The window wasn't painted shut. It was open a crack, letting in cold night air. The walls looked freshly painted, perfect, like no room I'd seen before. And the Polaroid? Gone. Everything I saw erased. The officers exchanged a look that said unstable tenant. One of them asked if I'd been drinking or had taken anything. I kept saying, I swear, until my throat hurt. They left with a warning to call again only for emergencies. When the door shut behind them, the silence hit me like a punch. The apartment felt smaller now. Warmer, but not comforting warm, more like stale. Breath filling the closed space. Like someone unseen was exhaling near my ear. I tried leaving. I packed what I could in 2 bags and grabbed my keys. When I opened the front door, a breeze pushed past me. Not cold, just wrong. Like warm skin brushing against mine. And on the hallway floor outside my door, another Polaroid. This one was new. Still developing. A blur of my face, wide eyes. Mouth open, like someone took it right as I discovered the first one. Looked down the hallway. Darkness. Nothing moving. That was when I heard it. Roommate. The word was whispered. A breath slipping between cracks in the wall. Not angry. Not threatening. Just desperate. I dropped the bags. That night I didn't sleep. I sat in the living room with every light on, every window locked, clutching a kitchen knife like it could help. Just before sunrise, something changed. A soft click, not from the locked room this time, from the living room closet. I stared at the door as the knob turned slow at first, then faster, jerking back and forth like someone was trying to open it, but couldn't quite figure out the locking mechanism. I ran to it, shoved a chair under the knob, and backed away until my spine hit the opposite wall. Silence. Then a whisper. So faint I almost thought I imagined it. Don't leave me alone again. I moved out that morning. Left everything behind except my wallet and phone. I didn't break the lease. There wasn't one to break. I just walked out and never came back. Blocked every unknown number. Slept on a coworker's couch for weeks. I tried to forget, but fear doesn't go away just because you relocate. A month later, I woke up to a notification on my phone. Unknown airdrop request. Do you want to share photos? I denied it. 2 seconds later, the same request. Then again, and again. My phone buzzed nonstop. Screen flashing with the request until finally, it forced acceptance. My gallery app opened on its own. Dozens of new Polaroids, all taken inside that apartment. Me sleeping. The first time I noticed the attic door, I thought it was just part of the ceiling. It sat flush above the hallway. That cheap plywood square some old houses use for crawl spaces. I didn't think anything of it. But when I moved in, I realized it was different. Heavy wood, painted shut, and nailed down at every corner. I mean nailed. With thick, rusted nails. Dozens of them. Not just sealed, locked in. I live alone. I rent the upper unit of a creaky old duplex in a quiet suburb. I moved here after a breakup that left me gutted, looking for somewhere cheap, quiet, and far away from everything familiar. This place was too perfect. $600 a month. No shared walls. Huge windows. And my landlord, Mrs. Delaney, was a sweet old woman who lived below me and mostly kept to herself. She told me the attic hadn't been opened in decades and to just leave it be. But I didn't ask. I didn't care. Until the noises started. It was a few weeks and at first. Just faint creaks above me, like settling wood or wind shifting the roof. I brushed it off. Old house, old sounds, but it started every night. Always between 2 and 3 a.m. And it wasn't just creaks. It was footsteps. Light. Slow, pacing from one side of the ceiling to the other. Always stopping directly above my bed. I thought maybe raccoons or squirrels in the roof. I mentioned it to Mrs. Delaney. She just smiled tightly and said, "There's nothing up there. Don't worry about it." But the sounds kept happening. So one night, I got fed up. I stood on a chair in the hallway and stared up at the attic door. The air around it felt cooler, still, like the air underneath hadn't moved in a long time. I knocked. Silence. Then 3 soft knocks back, exactly where I'd tapped. I fell off the chair trying to get down. I didn't sleep that night. Or the one after that. Every sound above me made my skin crawl. Sometimes I'd hear breathing, long dragging inhales. Sometimes whispering, like someone was talking to themselves up there. And once, this is real, I heard laughter. Dry, raspy, like an old man gasping for air, and trying to be quiet. It was coming from inside the attic. But here's the thing that messed with me the most. The attic door? It wasn't nailed shut anymore. At least, not completely. A few of the nails had been pulled out and left dangling. Each night, more were loose. I bought a camera. The kind you can stick to your ceiling with motion detection. Set it up in the hallway, aimed directly at the attic door. I went to bed with every light on. Knife under my pillow. Heart racing. Next morning, I checked the footage. At 2:48 a.m., the attic door moved, just a little. The corner lifted maybe an inch. I paused the video a dozen times, zoomed in, slowed it down frame by frame, and for one terrifying second, I swear I saw a set of fingers pushing up against the wood. Long, thin, wrong-colored skin, like paper soaked in tea, wrinkled. Then the door slammed back shut. Hard. I called Mrs. Delaney. In a panic. Told her someone was living up there. That I was calling the cops. She got weirdly calm. Almost too calm. There's no one up there, she said slowly. No one living anyway. And then she hung up. I stood there with the phone in my hand, cold spreading through my chest like frostbite. No one living? That night, I slept in my car. The next day, I brought a friend, Mike, to help me open the attic. He didn't believe me, but he saw the pulled nails and agreed it was off. We brought a crowbar, flashlights, and masks in case it was full of asbestos or dead animals. It took effort, but we finally got the attic door open. The air that came out was wrong, stale, heavy, and cold. We climbed up. I didn't know what I expected. Cobwebs, dust, boxes. What I didn't expect was a chair, just one, placed in the center of the attic, facing a small square hole that looked down into my bedroom vent, right above where I sleep, and next to the chair. Polaroids, dozens of them. Of me. Sleeping, changing, working at my desk. All taken through the vent. Mike didn't say a word. He just walked out and refused to go back up. I stared at the photos, numb, trying not to scream. I picked one up. It was dated 3 nights ago. I was asleep, mouth slightly open, blanket half off. My eyes looked dark even in the dim light, like I sensed someone watching me. The worst part? In the corner of the photo, a faint, blurry figure, half in frame. Sitting in the chair, we sealed the attic, hammered the nails back in, added screws, bolted the damn thing. Mike offered to help me move out that week, but it was already too late. Because that night, at 3:11 a.m., the vent in my bedroom whistled. Just once, and I heard it again. That dry, rasping laugh. Part 2. The laugh didn't stop. It was faint, like someone trying to hold it in, but it echoed out of the vent like it was inside the ductwork, like it had been waiting for me to hear it. I couldn't breathe. My body locked up. I stared at the vent, expecting the face to push through any second. Something inches away on the other side of that metal grate. I wanted to run. I should have run, but I didn't. Single quotes T. Instead, I grabbed my phone, shaking, and called 911. All I managed to say was, "There's someone in my attic. He's watching me through the vent." They said they'd send someone, but by the time the cops got there, everything was gone. The attic? Empty. The chair? Gone. The Polaroids? Gone. No sign anyone had ever been up there. They asked if I had any proof. I opened the app connected to my hallway camera. All the files were corrupted. Every single night since I installed it, just black static with flashes of distorted shapes. Like someone had tampered with the footage. One of the officers gave me that look. The mental health look. "You might be dreaming," he said. "In that way, people say it when they don't want to say crazy." The attic door was still sealed, still nailed, but I knew. He had access another way. I didn't sleep that night. Every vent in the apartment started making noise. Not normal HVAC sounds, these were intentional. Scrapes, Whispers, taps, repetitive, like code. Like he was talking to me. I moved into the living room. Slept with the lights on. Tried to drown the sound out with TV. But the vents kept hissing, and every now and then, just for a second, I'd catch the faintest sound of breathing behind them. I begged Mrs. Delaney the next morning to let me break the lease. She just stared at me from behind her door chain and said, "You should have left it sealed." I asked her, screamed at her, "What's in the attic?" Her eyes got watery. She whispered, "He was my son." I froze. She opened the door a little more. "He lived up there for years," she said, voice trembling. "We didn't know how sick he was until it was too late. He started watching people. The last tenant before you moved out in the middle of the night said someone was coming through the vent to touch her hair while she slept. I wanted to throw up. He died in there," she said. "Or we think he did. One day, he stopped making noise. We nailed it shut. We never opened it again." I stared at her. "Why didn't you tell me?" "I needed someone in the apartment," she whispered. "He doesn't like it empty." I left. I didn't pack. I just drove to my brother's place 3 hours away and collapsed on his couch. Told him everything. He didn't believe me, but he let me stay. I tried to reset. Pretend it was behind me, but 3 nights later, it started again. It began with the bathroom vent. I was brushing my teeth, and I heard a soft tick-tick from inside it, like fingernails. I turned off the fan, listened. Nothing. Then scrape. Something long and dry dragging along the inside of the metal pipe. The next day, I noticed my phone's flashlight would randomly turn on by itself, and I woke up with a nosebleed and deep scratches on my ankle I couldn't explain. Started getting Polaroids again. No return address. Just slid under the door while I slept. One showed me brushing my teeth. Another of me standing at the stove. One was taken from inside my brother's laundry room, angled to show my silhouette through the frosted glass door. That's when I knew. He followed me, and that meant he wasn't a ghost, or if he was, it wasn't like anything I'd ever heard of. I finally broke down and went back to the duplex. I needed answers, closure, anything. When I got there, the windows upstairs were boarded. Mrs. Delaney's unit was dark. No car, mail piling up. I walked around to the back entrance and found the door to my old unit unlocked. Inside, everything was covered in dust. The air felt heavier than I remembered, like walking into a vacuum. Went straight to the hallway. The attic door was wide open. No nails. Ladder was already pulled down. My chest tightened. But I climbed out. The attic was exactly as I remembered it from that first time. Empty. Except for one thing. In the center of the floor, there was a mattress, old, stained, molded, with sheets balled up in the corner. Next to it, a small pile of human hair tied with string, and on the wall, drawn in chalky, shaking handwriting, "You let me out. You're mine now." I left the attic, slammed the door, screwed it shut from the outside. Then I heard something. Movement from below me. I turned and realized the sound was coming from Mrs. Delaney's unit. The door was open. Just a crack. I crept down the stairs, every nerve in my body screaming not to go further. But I needed to see. Her place was cold, freezing, everything covered in dust. Pictures turned face down, furniture sheeted. I found her in the living room. What was left of her. She was in the rocking chair, staring at the blank TV, mouth wide open in a scream, frozen mid-breath, hands twisted, eyes glassy. Her fingernails were torn down to the beds. On the wall behind her, in the same scratchy handwriting as in the attic, she sealed me in. "You let me out." I ran. I never reported it. Someone else did, I guess. I saw an article a week later. Elderly woman found dead in duplex, 'cause unknown. The attic was sealed again, but not well enough. I knew it was weird the second I walked in. The Craigslist ad said, "Fully furnished studio. All utilities included." And for $700 a month, I didn't expect much. Maybe a beat-up couch, a lumpy mattress, a few leftover forks in a drawer. What I didn't expect was the mannequin in the corner of the living room. It stood by the window, facing the wall. No clothes. No stand. Just legs together, arms stiff at its sides, skin a sickly off-white. No face, just a smooth head, blank and glossy. Like it had been waiting. When I asked the landlord, some guy named Greg, about it, he barely looked up from his phone. "Oh yeah," he said. "That comes with the place. Don't move it." I laughed, thinking he was kidding. He wasn't. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about it. It wasn't even in my bedroom, but I felt like I was being watched. Like something was leaning just around the doorway, peeking in. At 2:17 a.m. I got up to check. The mannequin was still in the corner, but it wasn't facing the wall anymore. It was turned slightly to the left, like it had pivoted to see me in the hallway. I froze. I stared at it for 5 minutes straight, barely breathing. I told myself I was just sleep deprived. I must have bumped it earlier and didn't notice. It was probably loose or off balance. I went back to bed, but I didn't sleep, and I didn't dream. The next morning, I moved it back to face the wall. Didn't tell anyone. Didn't want to seem crazy. Later that night, I FaceTimed my sister. She asked how the place was. I panned the camera around the apartment, trying to make it look less depressing. She paused when I got to the corner. Why is there someone in your room?" My stomach dropped. I turned the phone back toward the corner. The mannequin had turned again. This time, it was facing directly into the living room. Shoulders squared. Arms slightly spread, I swore. Ran over and touched it. It was ice cold, heavy, unmovable. I FaceTimed her again. Made her stay on the line while I rotated it back to the wall. She laughed it off, told me I should name it. Turn it into a TikTok bit or something. But I wasn't laughing. That night, it moved again. I started having dreams. In one, I woke up and it was standing at the foot of my bed. Same blank face. Same stiff posture. Just watching. In another, it whispered my name. Not loud, just barely audible over the hum of my box fan. But when I'd wake up, it was always back in the corner. Until the night it WS in single quotes it happened on a Thursday. I was already on edge after 4 days of barely sleeping. I woke up around 3 a.m. My mouth was dry. My head was pounding, and my bedroom door was open. I swear I had closed it. Locked it even. I sat up, heart thudding, and there it was. The mannequin, standing just inside the room. Closer than ever. Its head was tilted slightly now, like it was curious or listening. I stared at it, frozen in place. Then I heard a sound, soft, wet, from behind me. I turned. No one was there. When I looked back, the mannequin was gone. I searched the apartment. Every room, every closet. I found it eventually back in the corner, facing the wall. Exactly where it had started, like it had never moved. The next day, I called Greg. I told him I was getting rid of it. Selling it. Or at least putting it in the basement. His voice went flat. "You touch that thing," he said. "You void the lease. That mannequin is part of the property." I told him that was insane. He said, "You're not the first to try." Then he hung up. I Googled the address. Tried digging up anything, and I found something. A Reddit post. Buried in R Paranormal, 3 years old. The title, "Furnished apartment on Glenwood, what's with the mannequin?" The post was short. No replies. Just someone saying they moved in, felt like they were being watched, and heard footsteps at night. The last sentence was, "I think it moved last night. I can't sleep. Something's wrong." I clicked the profile. Deleted. That night, I stacked furniture in front of my bedroom door. I told myself it was just wood and plastic. That I was being irrational. That if I didn't feed it attention, it would stop. But at 3:16 a.m., I woke up to knocking. 3 slow knocks. On the other side of the door, I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I just listened. Then a voice low and breathy whispered through the crack. "I can't see you in here." Part 2. I didn't move. I couldn't. The furniture stacked against the door rattled, like something was leaning its full weight against it. The voice came again, too close, like its mouth was inches from the wood. "Let me look at you." I don't know how long I sat there, sweating, trembling, heart pounding so loud I thought it would give me away, but whatever was outside eventually stopped. Hours passed. The light under the door stayed dark. I waited until the sun finally bled into the room before touching the barricade. When I slowly pushed everything aside and opened the door, my stomach dropped. The mannequin was standing right there. Its head leaned deep into the doorway, like it had been pressing its ear against it, like it was listening to my breathing. I snapped. I grabbed the damn thing by the torso and shoved it across the room. I wanted to tear it apart, smash it, burn it, but the moment I took one step toward it, a voice whispered from inside its hollow chest, "Don't do that." I stumbled backwards, hit the wall hard, and slid to the floor. That's when I noticed something else. There was a seam around the mannequin's chest and neck, too precise, too clean, like it had been sealed shut. Something was inside it. Something that breathed. I ran, not quietly, not rationally. Just tore out the door and sprinted down the hallway, barefoot, heart clawing up my throat. I pounded on a neighbor's door, screaming for help. No one answered. I kept running until I was outside, gulping cold air, waiting for the shaking to stop. I walked for what felt like hours before ending up at a diner that looked like it never closed. I called Greg. He actually picked up. "What did you do?" he asked immediately. No hello, no pretense. "I'm done," I choked out. "I'm not going back there. That thing, it doesn't like being ignored," he said. His calmness made me feel nauseous. "You rented me a possessed mannequin?" Silence. Then, "It's not a mannequin." I hung up. I spent the day hiding at the diner until I couldn't afford to buy more coffee. When I got back to the building, I prayed the mannequin would be gone. It wasn't. My nightmare was waiting for me in the hallway outside my door. Like it knew where I'd be, like it followed the sound of my fear. But now, it wasn't blank. Someone had drawn eyes on its smooth face. Just 2 circles with dots in the middle. Childish, off-center, but somehow worse than a real face. And its one arm was raised. A wave. I didn't touch it. I stepped around it and locked myself inside. Every lock I had. I shoved a chair under the knob. I grabbed a hammer, a kitchen knife, anything that could make me feel less powerless. I planned it out. I'd leave first thing in the morning. I'd abandon my deposit, my stuff, whatever. I just needed one more night to get my things in order, to get a friend with a car, to not be alone. But that plan died fast. At 2:59 a.m., I woke to a shuddering thud from the living room. Then another, harder. The mannequin was ramming the bedroom door. That was when I realized it didn't whisper through the cracks. It didn't breathe in the corner. It didn't pose itself while watching me. It wanted to see me. It needed me to know it was there. The doorframe splintered. The hinges groaned. And then, with one final crack, the door burst open. I couldn't scream. I couldn't move. The mannequin came through the darkness, its new eyes locked onto mine. Its mouth slowly splitting open at the seam, not a hole. Not plastic tearing, a smile, wide, too wide, and inside hands. Small hands. Pale skin. Fingers reaching outward as if someone was trying to crawl out of it. Then the voice again. "You looked at me." I blacked out. When I came to, the room was bright with morning light. My door still smashed. My furniture still toppled, but the mannequin was gone. I grabbed a backpack, shaking too badly to zip it properly, and ran. Didn't look back. Didn't breathe until I was 2 neighborhoods away. I stayed at a motel for a week. Slept with the lights on. Jumped at every sound. I never went back to that apartment. I thought it was over. Today, a package arrived at the motel. No return address. Inside colon, a folded piece of paper, covered in shaky handwriting. I found you, underneath the paper. A Polaroid. Me. Sleeping. And behind me, a familiar, tall shape with drawn-on eyes and a smile wide enough to tear its face open. The first time it happened, I thought I'd forgotten to turn the water off. It was 3:17 a.m. I'd gone to bed early after unpacking, first night in a new place. A quiet studio apartment on the 2nd floor of a rundown building with water-stained ceilings and windows that didn't fully close. But it was all I could afford. I was between jobs, desperate, and too tired to care about much. I woke up suddenly, like someone had called my name. Silence, except for the soft hiss of running water. I got up groggy, confused. My heart was pounding like I was late for something. When I walked into the bathroom, the light was already on. The shower was running, full blast, steaming. I just stood there, blinking into the foggy air. I hadn't touched the faucet since I moved in, and the hot water? I didn't know it worked. I turned it off, convinced it was just some old pipe glitch. Maybe pressure buildup or an auto reset or whatever. Tried to laugh it off. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. There was something about that steam, the smell. Not mildew, not old plumbing. It smelled like skin, like sweat, like someone else had just been in there, standing under the water. The next night, it happened again. Same time, 3:17 a.m. I woke up out of a dead sleep. Water running. This time, I didn't hesitate. I ran to the bathroom and flung the door open. The light was off now, but the shower was still on, steam rolling out like someone had been in there for a while. I turned on the light and the mirror. It wasn't fogged over like it should have been, just one shape on it, a handprint. Too high to be mine. Palm flat, fingers long. Pressed directly against the glass like someone had been watching themselves in the mirror, standing behind the fog. Asked the landlord the next morning if there had been plumbing issues. He looked at me way too calmly and said, "It runs at that time, yeah. Just let it, don't mess with it." Let it? I asked. Why would I let the shower run in the middle of the night? He shrugged. Better that than waking it up. I waited for a smile, a joke, something. He just walked away. That night I stayed up. I sat in the living room with the bathroom door cracked open, watching the dark gap under the frame, waiting. At 3:17 a.m. on the dot, I heard the faucet twist, not creak, not drip. Twist. As if someone had reached in and turned it on deliberately. The steam started sliding out from under the door like it had a life of its own. I stood, breath caught in my throat, inching toward the door. Something wet dripped near my foot. I looked down. The floor outside the bathroom was wet. Not from the shower footprints. Bare, damp, leading out of the bathroom and stopping just behind where I stood. Didn't turn around. I slept in my car that night. The next day, I did what everyone does when they're scared and don't want to admit it. I Googled. I searched the building name, the address, the history. Buried on page 7 of some real estate forum, I found a post from 2016. Anyone know what happened at that place on Maple and 11th? My cousin lived in unit 204, said the water used to turn on by itself every night. She swore someone died in the shower. Landlord told her to let it run. She moved out after she found hair in the drain that wasn't hers. I lived in unit 206. I checked the drain. I didn't want to, but I had to. I pulled off the cover. Reached in. Long dark strands of hair wrapped around my fingers. Tangled. Slimy. Way too much for someone who hadn't used the shower yet. When I pulled them out, I found something else. A gold necklace. Delicate. broken clasp. Still wet. I don't wear jewelry. I didn't know where it came from. That night, I blocked the bathroom door with a chair. I didn't care about the pipes or the landlord or his weird warning. I wasn't going to let this thing play its little midnight game. I sat up in bed, watching the clock dot at 3:17 a.m. I held my breath, and then bang, the bathroom door slammed from the inside. The chair flew across the floor like it had been kicked. The light under the door flicked on Dot, and through the crack a shadow moved, not walked. Not floated. Dot shifted, like something adjusting its weight, like a person stepping back into the steam. Then the water came on again. Part 2. I couldn't move. I just stared at the glowing strip of light under the door, shaking so hard I felt like my bones would crack. Then the steam began pouring out again. Not slowly this time. It rushed out from under the bathroom door like someone had opened a sauna at full blast. The air turned thick, hot, damp, and inside it, I swear I could see shapes. Not clearly, just movement. Like someone pacing in slow, careful circles behind the door. Then it stopped. Silence. Except not complete silence. From inside the bathroom, I heard a voice. A woman's voice, breathy, ragged, whispering, "You locked me in." I grabbed my keys and bolted. I didn't even take my phone. I slept in my car again, this time in a supermarket parking lot with the engine running all night. Kept the windows cracked, kept checking the back seat like a maniac. At sunrise, I drove back just to grab my stuff. I had zero intention of staying another night, but when I stepped into the apartment, the lights were on. The floor was dry. The bathroom door wide open. And on the mirror, written in streaky water, I waited. I packed in less than 10 minutes. I didn't look in the bathroom. I didn't shut the lights off. I didn't even lock the door. I drove to my friend Danielle's place and begged to crash on her couch. She didn't ask a lot of questions. I told her I was going through something. She nodded like she got it. I thought distance would help. But that night, at 3:17 a.m., Danielle's shower turned on. It woke us both. She walked out of her bedroom, confused, rubbing her eyes. "Did you use the bathroom?" I shook my head. We walked to the door together. The light was on. Steam drifted through the crack. My whole body went cold. My chest got tight. "I think it's me," I said out loud, without really meaning to. Danielle looked at me like I was losing it. "What?" Then, I stepped closer and noticed something that made me dizzy. The water on the floor. The steam clinging to the tile. Footprints, one set. Bare, wet, leading out of the bathroom. But this time, they stopped right in front of her bedroom door. We didn't sleep. I tried to explain everything to her the next morning. The 317 thing. The steam, the voice, the hair in the drain. She tried to be supportive, but I could tell she thought I was having some kind of breakdown. That night, she let me sleep in her bed while she took the couch. I woke up just before 3:17. No alarm. No noise. I just knew. The air felt wrong. I looked toward the bedroom door. There was steam leaking under it. No running water this time, just the vapor. Creeping in like smoke. And inside it, faint, but real, was the smell. Skin, heat, waterlogged hair, and something else. Decay. I opened the door. The bathroom across the hall was dark, quiet, but the mirror had writing again, this time in 2 lines. "You didn't let me finish. Let me finish." I slammed the door. I shook Danielle awake. I told her I was leaving, right then and there. That I didn't care if I had to sleep in a parking garage for the rest of my life. I wasn't letting this follow me again. She didn't argue this time. She just looked at me and said, "I heard her too." I went to a library the next day. Old school research, city archives, public records. It took hours, but eventually I found it. A death report. The apartment I'd rented? A woman drowned in the shower 5 years ago. No sign of foul play, no drugs, but the cause of death was strange. She inhaled steam until her lungs filled with fluid. Her name was Marissa Bell. She was found days later. The water was still running when they found her. And the time of death? Estimated between 3:15 and 3:18 a.m. I don't know why it happens at that time. I don't know what she wants, but I think she wasn't done dying. And now she's trying to pull someone back in to repeat those final minutes. Over and over. Until someone drowns the way she did. Last night it happened again, but not in my place. Danielle called me at 3:30 a.m., sobbing. "She's in the drain," she whispered. I drove over as fast as I could. Found her in the hallway, dripping wet, shaking like she'd been pulled out of ice water. Her bathroom was soaked. The shower had come on at 3:17 again. She tried to turn it off, but the water wouldn't stop. Then the lights blew out, and in the dark, through the mirror fog, she saw someone else's reflection. Not hers, not mine. Someone standing behind her, inches from her back. We left together. We've been crashing at motels, changing rooms every night, never telling the clerk our real names. But it doesn't help. Last night, at 3:17 a.m., I heard a faucet drip in the bathroom of the motel. It wasn't even a shower this time, just a single steady drop. But when I walked in, I found something waiting on the counter. A clump of wet, dark hair, and beneath it, that same gold necklace. I've always been a heavy sleeper. So when I started waking up to footsteps above my ceiling at 3 a.m., I knew something was wrong, because I live in a basement unit. And the unit directly above me? It's been vacant for months. The landlord was clear when I signed the lease. Top floors under renovation. No one's living up there yet. I even remember feeling relieved. No upstairs neighbors meant no late-night noise, no kids stomping around, no midnight arguments. But the footsteps? They were real, steady, pacing. Sometimes slow, sometimes fast, like someone was nervously circling a room. Always between 2:50 and 3:30 a.m. I didn't want to believe it at first. Blamed it on pipes, animals, even dreams. But they kept happening. Every night. And the worst part? Sometimes the footsteps would stop directly above my bed. And stay there. For minutes. The first time it truly rattled me. I was lying flat, frozen, counting each slow creak from the floor above. My heart was racing, my mouth dry. Then I heard it. A long, slow drag. Like something heavy being pulled across the floor. A chair? A body? And then a thud, right over my head, followed by nothing. I stayed like that, until sunrise. Didn't sleep a second. I asked the landlord about it the next day. His name's Ken, middle-aged, gray hair, friendly in a forced kind of way. He gave me a too quick shrug. Yeah, probably just the building settling. Old houses, you know? Settling doesn't sound like footsteps, I pushed. He blinked. Could be pipes too. Heating kicks on around that time. Do the pipes walk back and forth? I asked, half joking. He didn't laugh. Just told me not to worry. That no one's up there. That night, I stayed up on purpose. I sat on the couch with a notebook, determined to write down what I heard and when. I wanted to prove it to myself. Make it real. 2:54 a.m. First creak, 2:56 a.m. Footsteps. Slow, directly above living room. 3:01 a.m. Stop above bedroom. 3:04 a.m. Dragging sound. 3:06 a.m. Thud. Then something new. 3:08 a.m. My lamp flickered, only for a second. But it was enough to make my stomach twist. 3:10 a.m. Footsteps in my hallway. That one didn't make sense, because my hallway doesn't. Run beneath the top floor. The only thing above that part of the unit is the crawl space. I didn't sleep at all. Again, around 6 a.m. I went outside and walked the property. I looked up at the windows of the top unit. They were all dark, shades drawn. No lights, except one. The one above my bedroom. It was open just an inch. Curtain fluttering slightly, like someone had cracked it to watch me. I didn't know what to do. Call the police? Tell them a ghost was pacing above me. I told myself I was spiraling. That stress was making me hear things. But that night, something changed. 3 a.m. Footsteps again, 3:02 a.m., stop above my bedroom. 3:03 a.m., tap, 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 dot 3. Slow knocks, dot, not above me this time, on my bedroom door. Part 2, I didn't move. Didn't even breathe. The knock hadn't come from upstairs. It was right there, on the inside of the basement unit, dot my hallway was empty. The door was locked. But someone, or something had knocked. I sat upright in bed, heart smashing against my ribs, trying to convince myself I'd imagined it. Then I heard it. Again, dot, tap, tap. Softer this time, dot, closer, like it was coming from the wall. I got up slowly, barefoot, and inched toward the bedroom door. My hand trembled on the knob, dot, I threw it open, dot, nothing, dot, just the hallway. Dim, quiet, dot, except for the cold. It felt colder than the rest of the apartment, like someone had just walked through and left their absence behind. The next day, I emailed Ken, dot, he didn't answer. I texted, nothing. Finally called him from a new number. He picked up on the second ring. When I asked again about the unit upstairs, if maybe someone had moved in without telling me, he sighed like he'd been waiting for this call. There's no one up there, he said flatly. Hasn't been in years. Then who's walking around at 3 a.m.? Pause. Then too calm. Have you checked the crawl space? I felt sick. Why would I? Sometimes people get in, squatters, or things die in the walls. Smells funny before it starts. Then he hung up. Didn't go near the crawl space for 2 days, dot, but the knocking continued, dot, always at 3:03. M, dot, always 3 slow taps, dot, always somewhere closer, dot, by the 4th night. The knock was on my closet door, dot, and this time it wasn't gentle, dot, boom, boom. I flung it open in a panic, expecting someone to be inside. There was nothing but the back wall of the closet. It looked wrong. The paint was cracked. The drywall slightly bowed, like it had been pushed from the other side. I pressed my hand to it, dot, it was warm. The next morning, I ripped the wall open. I don't know what I thought I'd find. Maybe nothing. Maybe rats. Maybe just the dark. But behind the drywall, there was a tiny service tunnel. A passage I didn't even know existed, dot. It was narrow, only a few feet tall, full of cobwebs and debris. And at the very end of it, a small rusted door, barely wide enough for a person to crawl through. On it, scratched in jagged letters, do not open. I didn't sleep that night, dot. Instead, I stared at the closet door, knowing what was behind it, knowing there was a space connected to this apartment, just big enough for someone to hide, dot, at 3:03 a.m. The lamp flickered, dot, then, just as always, tap, 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 dot, but this time, it wasn't from the closet, dot, it was from under my bed. I didn't look. I got up, grabbed my car keys, left everything behind. I drove all night to a motel 3 towns over and paid cash. Thought that would be it, that I could forget it. But 3 days later, I got a package, dot, no return address. No postage, dot, just left at the front desk with my name written in Sharpie. Inside, a cassette tape. Old, dusty. Labeled, listen at 3:03 a.m. I didn't want to, but I did. I waited until 3:02 a.m., pressed play. Nothing but static at first. Then call on footsteps, dot, slow, pacing, familiar, dot, then a creak. A whisper, and a voice right against the mic. I live under the floor. I wait. You left the door open. I dropped the tape, smashed it under my shoe, checked out of the motel within the hour, started sleeping in my car. But the knocking doesn't stop, dot, every night at 3:03 a.m., sometimes on my window, sometimes on the car roof. Last night, it came from the back seat. I finally found an article. Years ago, A tenant in my building, in the top unit, had gone missing. Never found. Neighbors reported footsteps. Sounds in the walls. The same time every night. They used to say he was cursed by the crawl space. That once you opened the door, you invited something in. Something that wanted to crawl back into your life. Something that hates being forgotten. I didn't think much of it the first time. It was just after midnight when I heard it. A high, distant sound coming from the air vent near my bed. Like wind, or maybe static from the TV in the other room. But then it grew clearer. A scream, faint, muffled, but human. A woman, crying out in short, panicked bursts, like she was gagged or being dragged. I sat up, adrenaline cutting through the fog of sleep. The apartment was dead silent. I muted everything. Listened hard. It came again. Through the vent. I live on the 3rd floor of an old brownstone. Everything echoes weird in here. Floors creak, walls shift. The plumbing moans like it's alive. I thought maybe it was a neighbor. Someone playing a horror movie with the volume cranked. But the next night, it happened again. Same time. Same scream. Same exact rhythm. That's what made it weird. It wasn't random. It was identical. Like a sound file on repeat. And the 3rd night, she started talking. I had my phone out, trying to record it. Pressed my ear to the vent. The metal was cold against my skin. Then I heard her whisper. Garbage static at first. Like tuning through radio channels in a storm. Then a breath. Then, please, help me. My hand clamped over my mouth. My skin went cold. I pulled away, stared at the vent like it might bleed. And I knew. Right then, this wasn't someone playing a prank. This was real. I reported it the next day. The landlord. Ron just blinked at me. Screams through the vents? Every night, I said. Between 12:30 and 12:40, same woman. Same words. He scratched his chin, clearly trying not to laugh. These walls are thin, he said. People fight. TVS echo. Probably just bad acoustics. Don't stress it. But if you're not sleeping, I've got a list of therapists on the fridge. Stress does weird things to people. That was his solution. I left his office shaking. I didn't tell anyone for a while. I felt crazy. I work remote. I live alone. I don't go out much. All the ingredients for someone unraveling. But I started noticing something else. The vent covers. Each morning, they looked disturbed. Shifted slightly. Like they'd been unscrewed and then forced. Back on. One even had scratches near the edge. Not old dust marks, fresh, tiny, claw-like scrapes on the paint. That same night, I turned off every light and sat in bed with the vent in full view. At 12:34 a.m., I heard it again. Only this time, it wasn't a scream. It was crying. A woman, quietly sobbing, ragged, gasping. Like she'd been doing it for hours. Then she said something else. I'm still here. I recorded it. Finally got a clean clip. Played it for a friend at work the next day. A guy named Josh who does audio stuff on the side. He listened. Face pale. Where'd you get this? He asked. My bedroom. This isn't just ambient sound, he said. This is directional. It's being picked up inside something. Like a tunnel or ductwork. Can you clean it up? Make it clearer? He nodded. 2 days later, he handed me back a file. I sat alone at my desk and played it with headphones on. What I heard wasn't just a voice. It was begging. Please, please. He locked me in. I can't get out. He watches. He knows. Please. That night, I couldn't stay there. I slept at a friend's place. Left all the lights on back at the apartment. Blinds closed, doors locked. The next morning, when I came back, the vent in the bedroom was wide open. Just hanging there. Screws on the floor. Like someone had climbed out, or in. I finally confronted Ron again. He didn't even look surprised when I told him about the voice, the vent, the recording. He just sighed and leaned back in his chair. "You're not the first," he said. My mouth went dry. "What?" Couple years back, girl in 3B swore she heard something. Same deal, cried in the walls. Thought someone was living in the vents. She moved out after 3 weeks. "And you didn't think to mention this to me?" He shrugged. "It stopped after she left. He offered to have someone check the ducts. I let them. The maintenance guy came 2 days later, old, greasy, bored, and popped off one of the grates. He shined the flashlight into the duct for about 10 seconds before pulling back. 'All clear,' he said. 'No bodies, no raccoons.' But when he reached down to put the cover back on, he paused. There was something stuck inside the vent lip. He pried it loose and handed it to me. A fingernail, jagged, human, stained with something dark. The first time I heard her scream, I thought it was the building. You live in places like this long enough, pre-war brick, bad wiring, vents older than your parents, and you start to think every sound is just part of the structure breathing. That's what I told myself. But it wasn't the building. It was a woman. And she was screaming. It started maybe my 3rd week in the apartment. Around 12:30 a.m., I was brushing my teeth and heard something strange come through the wall vent in the bathroom. A high-pitched burst of sound, like feedback from a mic. I leaned closer, turned off the water. The sound stopped. I wrote it off. But the next night, same time, it came again. Clearer. It wasn't just noise. It was a scream. I froze in place, toothbrush still in my hand, foam dripping from my mouth. It was short, maybe 2 seconds. Not loud enough to shake the walls, but definitely not part of the usual late-night building noise. It sounded like a woman young screaming from somewhere deep inside the walls. It echoed in that weird way metal carries sound. Warped and distant, but unmistakably real. The kind of scream that makes your skin go tight. Like your body knows something your brain hasn't caught up to yet. Then silence. I rinsed my mouth, turned off the light, and went to bed with the TV on. Loud. The 3rd night was worse, because it wasn't just a scream. This time, she said words. I was lying in bed, scrolling on my phone, when it started again. 12:36 a.m., I heard the metal vent pop. Not a bang, just a gentle shift like the metal warped slightly under pressure. Then came the voice. Muffled. Desperate. "Help me. Please." I sat up so fast I nearly dropped my phone. My bedroom has a ceiling vent. I stared at it like it might open. And then I realized I'd heard that exact phrase before. Not just the words, but the way she said them. Like a loop. I opened the voice memo app and hit record. But all I got was silence. I told myself it was a neighbor. Thin walls. Old ducts. Shared lines between apartments. Makes sense, right? But the next morning, I asked around. The unit on the left was empty, under construction, according to the notice in the hallway. The one on the right? A guy named Louise, mid-30s, chill, mostly kept to himself. I knocked. Asked casually if he'd heard any weird sounds through the walls. He paused. "You mean like yelling?" "Yeah." He scratched the back of his neck. "Heard something a couple nights ago. Figured it was a TV, horror movie or something." "Did it sound like a woman?" He didn't answer right away. "Like someone in pain?" I added. He nodded once. "Thought I imagined it." I went to the landlord next Ron. Gray hoodie, flip-flops year-round. Perpetually annoyed. Told him I was hearing voices through the vents. He looked at me like I'd asked him if ghosts pay rent. "It's an old building," he said. "It makes noise." "That's the deal. It's not the building. It's a woman. She's talking, screaming. You sure you're not just dreaming with your eyes open?" He said, and laughed at his own joke. I didn't laugh. When I mentioned that the unit next door was vacant, and the noise seemed to come from inside the walls, His expression changed. Not alarmed. Not surprised. Just tight. He cleared his throat. "I'll have maintenance take a look." Maintenance never came, but the voice did. Night 5. It got worse. This time I woke up at exactly 12:34 a.m. No alarm. No noise. Just a jolt in my chest. Like someone yelling inside my dream pulled me up out of sleep. I sat in bed, heartbeat wild, trying to remember what I'd heard. And then it happened again. The scream, longer, clearer. And this time, it was followed by crying. Not quiet crying, either. Gut-deep sobbing. The kind of grief you feel in your spine. It came through the vent like a storm, crashing against the metal, echoing off the screws. I sat there listening, and felt like I was eavesdropping on someone dying over and over again. I tried recording again. Left a voice memo app open all night. When I played it back in the morning, I heard nothing but static. At least I thought it was static. Until I slowed it down. At half speed. The white noise started to sound rhythmic. Breathing. Like someone hyperventilating. Trying to stay quiet. Like she was still in there, right behind the wall. That morning, I unscrewed the vent cover in my bedroom. It wasn't easy. 2 of the screws were stripped. Like someone had tried to remove it before and stopped halfway, behind the metal grate. The duct disappeared into blackness, but there was something wedged just inside the opening. I reached in, carefully, and pulled it out. A bobby pin, still bent, still shiny. Not dusty like the rest of the duct. It hadn't been there long. I held it in my hand and just stared, and I realized she'd tried to pick the vent open from the inside. I barely slept for 2 days after that. I started researching the building, scanning every real estate site, every local forum, trying to find something, anything. Finally found a thread in a local Facebook group from 3 years ago. Did anyone ever figure out what happened at the Ridgeway building? Lived there back in 2020. Weird stuff at night. Screams. Maintenance. Guy said a girl went missing in the unit next to mine. Police never followed up. Landlord said it was a gas leak, but the unit mentioned? 3A. My unit? 3B. I messaged the person who wrote it. Never got a reply. Started calling around. Talked to the leasing office. They couldn't disclose previous tenants due to policy. I even called the police. They said no missing persons had ever been formally filed under that address. I've never had a lease with a warning clause before. When I moved into the duplex, I figured it was a typo. Under Section 4, right after the part about no pets and quiet hours, it said, "Tenant shall not sleep in the second bedroom under any circumstance." That was it. No explanation. No asterisk. Just that single sentence in bold. When I asked the landlord about it, some stiff guy named Mr. Graves, he barely looked up from his clipboard. "Don't use the room for sleeping," he said. "Storage is fine." "Why?" I asked. "Some tenants report disorientation. It's not dangerous. Just unpleasant." That was the word he used. Unpleasant. He said it like I was asking about a leaky faucet or drafty window. I should have known right then. But I needed the place. And the rent was too good. The apartment was in decent shape. One of those outdated units with popcorn ceilings and light switches that never seemed to control anything. 2 bedrooms. The first was small and boxy, right off the hallway. The second, the one from the lease, was bigger, brighter, window facing the street. Carpeted. Naturally, I chose it as my bedroom anyway. I mean, what's the worst that could happen? First night sleeping in there, I had a dream. Not one I remembered clearly, just a feeling like being lost. Like I was walking in circles through my own apartment, trying to open doors that led nowhere. Waking up didn't help much. My brain felt fogged, my skin cold. The ceiling looked off, slightly too low, like it was hovering closer to my face than the night before. I blamed it on nerves. First night, new place, whatever. Second night though. I woke up at 3:44 a.m. No noise. No reason. Just this intense certainty that something was wrong with the window. It was shut, blinds drawn. But I swore I could see light behind them, pale, flickering, like a candle behind frosted glass. I got up, pulled the blinds. There was nothing outside, just the street. No lights, no cars. But when I looked back at the window pane, there was a reflection. Not mine. Just for a split second. A shape standing behind me. Then gone. By the third night, I'd stopped using the room. Not because I believed the warning, exactly, just something about it felt wrong. Every time I walked past the door, I felt pressure. Like the air in the room had weight. Like walking past an open oven. The thermostat said the apartment was 72 degrees, but that room? Always cold. Always silent. Even the sound of the street seemed to die before reaching it. I moved my mattress into the living room and started sleeping there. That's when the mirroring started. At first, it was small stuff. I'd wake up and find the second bedroom light on, even though I hadn't used it. Or I'd hear footsteps from inside. Soft and deliberate. One morning I left a mug on my desk and found an identical mug inside the second bedroom. Same chipped edge. Same tea stain at the bottom. Except I'd never brought one in there. And once, I swear to God, I opened the closet door and found 2 jackets on the hanger. I'd only ever put one on. Same make. Same brand. Same tear in the sleeve. Like the room was copying things from the rest of the apartment, or trying to. I went back to the lease. Read it from top to bottom. I hadn't missed it. Tenant shall not sleep in the second bedroom under any circumstance. But I had, even that first night. And now something was wrong with that room. It wasn't just cold anymore. It was wrong shaped. When I stood at the doorway and looked inside, the angles didn't feel right. The walls seemed to lean, like the room was trying to unfold into more space than it was physically allowed. And I couldn't shake the feeling that if I stepped in again, I wouldn't walk out the same. One night, I left my phone charging in the second bedroom just to test it. When I checked it the next morning, the screen was cracked and the camera roll was full. 17 photos, all taken sometime between 3 o'clock and 4 a.m., all from inside the room. Dark, blurry, angled upward, as if someone or something had crawled across the floor. Holding the phone low and snapping pictures of the ceiling. In the final photo, my bed was visible in the background. Me, asleep in the living room. I called the landlord, asked if anyone had ever tried to remove the second bedroom from the unit, seal it off entirely. He paused, then sighed. You slept in it, didn't you? Yeah. Long silence, then flatly, don't go back in there. No matter what it says or shows you, it's not part of the apartment anymore. What the hell does that mean? But he'd already hung up. I've signed a lot of leases in my life. Too many short-term sublets. Shady landlords. One place didn't even have running water for the first week and still charged a cleaning fee when I left. So at this point, nothing surprises me. But this lease? This one had something I'd never seen before. Right between the no smoking clause and the bit about garbage bins. It said, tenant shall not sleep in the second bedroom under any circumstance. No legalese. No footnote. Just that line bolded. Like a warning. At first, I laughed. Thought maybe it was a joke. Some landlord got cute with the paperwork. But when I asked about it during the walkthrough, Mr. Graves, a pale, rigid man in his 50s who looked like he ironed his socks, didn't smile. He barely blinked. It's not a livable space, he said flatly. Why not? He paused, then said, it has a habit of making people unwell. That's how he said it. Not dangerous. Not haunted, just unwell. The apartment was in a 2-story building that looked older than the trees around it. My unit was upstairs. 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, a small kitchen with tile that curled at the corners. The rent was low, the neighborhood was quiet, and honestly, I didn't care about the warning. I needed out of my last place. I needed a fresh start. So I moved in, and I chose the second bedroom as mine. The room looked totally normal. Bigger than the first bedroom, and with more light during the day. 1 window, 1 closet, cream-colored carpet, off-white walls. It didn't feel cursed. It felt like a room that hadn't been used in a while. First night, I set up my mattress on the floor and passed out without unpacking. I was too exhausted to be scared, but I had the strangest dream. In it, I was awake, but the room was wrong. Bigger than it should have been. Endless versions of itself folding inward. I walked from one doorway to the next, but every time I passed through, I ended up back in the same place. Over and over. I woke up sweating. My phone said 3:44 a.m. And the window? It looked off. The blinds were closed, but I could see light behind them. Dim, flickering, like candlelight. I sat up slowly, listening for street noise. Nothing. When I finally got up the nerve to pull the blinds back, there was nothing outside. No candles, no lights. Just the sidewalk, the dark trees. But for a split second, I swear I saw a shape reflected in the glass. A figure standing behind me, even though the room was empty. I spun around. Empty. But the air was cold. Heavier than it should have been. By the third night, I'd stopped sleeping in there. Not because I was scared. At least that's what I told myself. It was just something about the room was wrong. The temperature never matched the rest of the apartment. The sound of the cars outside didn't quite reach the window. And the light, even in the middle of the day, felt gray, faded, like the room was filtering. It reminded me of being underwater. I started sleeping in the living room. Instead, then the mirroring began. One morning, I woke up and walked past the second bedroom, door shut like I'd left it, and saw something under the crack. A sock, a single, balled up sock. I reached for it, but I already knew it wasn't mine. It looked like mine. Same color, same brand, but I hadn't been missing a sock. I checked the laundry to be sure. 2 matching pairs. Nothing missing. So where had this one come from? Later that week, I left a mug in the kitchen sink. An hour later, I heard a soft clink from inside the second bedroom. I opened the door, slowly, and found another mug sitting on the carpet. Same make, same chip on the handle. Still damp. I checked the sink. My mug was still there. This was a duplicate. A copy. It happened again and again. Items appearing in both places. Slightly off versions of real things. My jacket with the torn sleeve. There were 2 of them in the hallway closet one morning. My journal, which I kept on my nightstand, somehow appeared in the second bedroom, open to a different page. With handwriting I didn't recognize. It read, "You already tried that." I don't remember writing it. I went back to the lease, read every line. Tenant shall not sleep in the second bedroom under any circumstance. The wording was deliberate, absolute, and I'd broken it the very first night. I wondered if that had triggered something. If whatever was in that room had taken notice, maybe I'd let it in. I started keeping the door shut, taped it closed, left a chair in front of it. I didn't open it for days. But the mirror copies kept coming. More clothes, duplicates of books, half-used candles that hadn't been burned. Once, I found a toothbrush identical to mine in the bathroom, but when I compared them side by side, the bristles were arranged differently, like something had made it from memory and didn't get it quite right. Then came the night I heard breathing. It was close. Just on the other side of the bedroom door. Slow, shaky. I crept closer, pressed my ear to the wood. And then it stopped. Silence. But when I looked down, the sock from before was back. Only now. It was wet. I called the landlord again. Graves answered on the first ring. "You slept in the room, didn't you?" I didn't even ask how he knew. "I just need to know what's happening," I said. "Why is it copying things? Why do I hear noises?" "You opened it," he said. "You activated it." "Activated what?" Long pause. "That room isn't part of the apartment anymore. It's not part of here. It's trying to." I didn't find the diary until my third week living here. It was wedged behind the dishwasher, literally stuffed between the back wall and the appliance, so tightly that I almost gave up trying to yank it out. But something about it pulled at me. The way it looked handmade, wrapped in cracked red leather, pages uneven and stained at the corners, and it was warm when I touched it, like someone had just left it there. The apartment was my first solo place. Small one-bedroom in an older building. Top floor, windows that jammed, and a kitchen that rattled like it might shake itself apart. But it was mine. The landlord gave me the usual runaround when I moved in. Said if anything broke, just YouTube it. That kind of landlord. He never mentioned anything about the last tenant. Never mentioned the diary. The first page was soaked through with old water damage, but I could still make out the handwriting. Tiny, careful, almost like whoever wrote it didn't want to make a sound, even on the page. "If you found this, you need to know. He comes through the drains." I stopped reading. Laughed out loud, awkward and nervous, but part of me didn't want to turn the page. Because the handwriting didn't look old, it looked recent. Over the next few nights, I kept picking the diary up, telling myself I'd throw it away. Then reading another page instead. Most of it was short entries. Paranoid. Disjointed. I heard the pipes talking again. "He watches through the sinkhole. I unplugged it, but he still sees. Don't run the water after midnight. That's how he wakes up." I started leaving it in different places. The couch. The counter. The drawer under the oven. Every morning, I'd find it somewhere else. Always back by the sink. I don't believe in this kind of stuff. I don't. I'm logical. I'm a skeptic. But things started happening that I couldn't explain. Small things. At first, water stains on the cabinet under the sink, even though there wasn't a leak. Dishes still wet hours after I'd dried them. Weird smells rising from the drain, like hair and rust and something burnt. Then one night, the bathroom faucet turned on by itself. 3:17 a.m. The sound of it snapped me awake like a fire alarm. I got up, flipped the light on, turned it off. Figured it was pressure, or a bad washer. Then I looked in the mirror, and behind me, for one flicker of a second, I saw movement. Something pulling back into the sink. I took the diary to work. Wanted to show a friend. See if it was part of some weird art project or viral thing. But when I opened my bag, it wasn't there. And when I got home that night, it was sitting in the sink. Open. To a new page I hadn't read before. He likes when you doubt. He only needs your attention. Once you believe, he starts to shape himself. I didn't sleep that night. I lay on the couch, eyes on the kitchen, watching the faucet like it might lurch to life. And just after 3 a.m., I heard it. A gurgle, long wet, like something climbing up the pipes. And then, a single drop hit the sink. But it wasn't water. It was black, thick, like tar. Like blood after it's dried. I approached slowly. And from the drain, rising with the smell of rotten metal, I heard a sound. A voice, not words, just a breath. A low, wet exhale, like someone smiling. Part 2. The exhale didn't stop. It hovered in the drain, not loud, not constant, just a slow, steady rhythm, like something was breathing from deep down in the pipes. I leaned closer, despite everything in my body screaming not to. And right before I pulled away, I heard something else. A voice. Not loud, not clear. Just one syllable, dragged out of a throat that didn't know how to use it anymore. "Hey." I shoved the plug into the drain and didn't sleep that night. The diary was gone again by morning. Not in the trash where I left it. Not in the freezer, where I'd hidden it during a moment of total panic at 4 a.m. Not anywhere I looked, until I opened the dishwasher. It was sitting inside. Alone. Center rack. Completely dry. And open to a new page. You're making space for him. Every time you look into the dark, you leave a little of yourself behind. I started hallucinating. That's what I told myself. That's what stress does. I saw shapes in the reflections, kitchen tiles flexing in my peripheral vision, warped figures in the TV when it was off. One night I blinked, and the mirror above the bathroom sink didn't show me. Just the room behind me. No body, no face. Like I'd been removed. And sometimes, I'd hear my own voice from the drain. Just little echoes. Me talking on the phone yesterday. Me muttering under my breath while cooking. Me laughing, except I wasn't laughing. The next entry in the diary was longer. The handwriting looked more frantic now, no longer small and tidy. It looped wide, tore across the margins, smudged in places like the writer had been shaking. The thing in the drains doesn't need to touch you to change you. It just needs your attention. Once you hear it, it starts listening back. I tried to drown it. I ran the water for hours, but it's not made of water. It's made of memory. That word stuck with me. Memory. Because lately, I'd been forgetting things. Leaving lights on, forgetting my own schedule. Once, I forgot my name on a phone call. It felt like the apartment was trying to take up more space inside my head than it should. Like the longer I stayed, the less of me there was left. I confronted the landlord, showed up at his office, dropped the diary on his desk. He didn't look surprised. Just tapped the cover and said, "You shouldn't have opened it." I asked him what it was, where it came from, who wrote it. He didn't answer that. Just said, "The last tenant left it behind. Figured someone like you might pick it up." Someone like me? Curious, he said. People who don't let things stay hidden. I asked him why no one cleaned it up. Why no one warned me. He just smiled. It's not the first time that books found its way back. When I got home that night, the drain was full, completely backed up. Water sitting in the sink, black and oily, like it hadn't touched light in days. And floating in the middle? A tooth, human, no mistaking it. I called a plumber immediately. Told them it was an emergency. They came the next morning. I watched from the hallway as the guy unscrewed the drain trap, muttering about clogs and rotting food. Then he stopped, held up something with the pliers, not hair, not food. Paper. He unfolded it slowly. It was a page from the diary, completely dry. He read it without meaning to, just scanning automatically, and I saw his face go pale. "What the hell is this place?" he asked. I didn't have an answer. That night I moved the dishwasher. I don't know why. I just had this urge. This need to see what else was back there. I pulled it out, inch by inch, sweating. The space behind it was deeper than it should have been. Dark, cold, the smell of mold and something older. Something earthy, like soil under nails, and there was a hole, a round opening in the wall, lined with rusted piping. No insulation. No wood framing. Just this smooth, wet tunnel that curved down. I leaned closer. The breath came again, louder, now like it had been waiting for me to open it up again. I covered the hole. I pushed the dishwasher back, taped the sink shut, blocked the bathroom drain, sealed the tub with a towel. Anything I could do. And then I sat on the couch with the diary in my lap and read the last few entries. The handwriting barely held together. He'll keep taking until there's nothing left to echo. He doesn't live in the water. He lives in the quiet parts. The places no one checks. I thought it was haunting me, but it was remembering me, rebuilding me. If you see yourself in a reflection and you're smiling, but you're not, it's already too late. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I couldn't, but because I didn't trust that I'd wake up as me. And sure enough, at 3:17 a.m. The faucet turned on. No creak, no pressure change. Just the smooth twist of a handle. And this time, I let it run. I stood there, across the room, watching. The water poured black at first, then clear, then red. And from the sound of it, from the drain's warbling hiss, I swear it was trying to say my name, but not repeat it. Practice it. The next morning, I packed my things. Didn't tell anyone. Didn't cancel utilities. Didn't ask for my deposit. Just left. Moved back in with my parents. Haven't said a word about what happened. But today, a package showed up. No name. No return address. I opened it slowly, already knowing what would be inside. And there it was, wrapped in red leather. Pages uneven, still warm. It started with barking. Constant, hollow, awful barking. At first, I thought it was just a badly trained dog. Annoying, sure, but not my problem. The sound came from the unit next door. My neighbor Kyle had this big mutt that he barely took care of. I never learned its name. Just saw it sometimes in the hallway, tongue hanging out, panting like it had just run a marathon inside a closet. I never liked that dog. There was something off about it. Its eyes didn't track right, like it was always looking past you, but still, it was just a dog. Nothing worth worrying about until Kyle disappeared. I noticed it on a Thursday. I was coming home from work, passing his door, when I realized something was weirdly quiet. No barking, no scratching at the door, no leash hanging from the hook he always used. I figured he finally took the dog out for a walk. But that night, the barking came back. Low, rhythmic, measured. And this time, it didn't stop. It went on all night. But what really got me was the rhythm of it. It barked the same way, in the same pattern. 3 barks, then a pause. 3 more, then a pause, almost like it was knocking. I knocked on Kyle's door the next morning. No answer. I pressed my ear to the door. Could hear panting, slow and wet, like the dog was just sitting there. I knocked again, louder. "Hey Kyle, you good?" No response, but I could swear I heard footsteps. Not animal ones. Bare feet. Soft, careful. I stepped back. Then the barking started. Again. 3. Pause. 3. Pause. Over and over and over. I called the landlord that afternoon. Said Kyle had moved out 2 days earlier. Wait, what? No, his dog is still in the apartment. The landlord sighed. He didn't have a dog. Now I know what you're thinking. I thought it too. I heard the dog. I saw it. The other neighbors had to know, right? But I asked around. Knocked on 3 other doors on my floor. Only one answered. This older woman who said she'd lived here for 11 years. She looked confused when I mentioned Kyle. "There's no Kyle on this floor," she said. "Never has been." That night, the barking was louder. 3. Pause. 3. Pause. But now it was closer. I sat in bed. Lights off, listening to it echo down the hall like it was coming from every wall. Around 2 a.m., I heard a scratch at my front door. Just once. Long and slow. I turned on every light I could. Sat in the kitchen with a knife and a broom, because that's all I had. I didn't sleep. The next day, I asked the landlord again. "You're seriously telling me no one lived in 2C? He didn't even look up from his phone. Look, people come and go. Maybe you're confused." I spoke to him multiple times. "Then where's your proof?" I didn't have any, not one text. No package addressed to him. No photos. I started questioning everything. Had I made him up? Had I imagined the dog? But then I checked my doorbell cam, the cheap one that barely works. I pulled up the feed from 3 nights ago. And there it was. The dog, right? In front of my door, but it wasn't barking. It was just standing there, still. UNMOVING. Head. tilted slightly, watching the door. When I zoomed in, something clicked in my brain, the snap of wrongness, because its mouth was open, tongue out, like it was panting. But it wasn't breathing, just posing, holding still. Waiting. That night, the barking stopped. At least, I thought it had. But around 3:22 a.m., I woke up to a different sound. A voice, muffled, low, right outside my door. It said, "Let me in. I'm his dog." Part 2. The voice didn't repeat itself. Just the one line, soft, low, spoken like it had practiced human speech and didn't quite get the tone right. "Let me in. I'm his dog." I stayed frozen in bed, didn't move, didn't breathe. And outside, behind the door, silence. No footsteps, no panting, no scratching. Just silence, like the air was holding its breath with me. The next morning, I checked the hallway through the peephole. Empty. No fur, no hair, no marks on the door, but the doormat, my doormat, had been flipped upside down, perfectly, like someone had lifted all four corners at once and set it back that way. And when I pulled it up, there were scratch marks on the floor underneath, not like nails, like fingers. I told myself I was imagining things, that maybe I'd been too isolated. Working from home, not talking to one, mind running circles. So I left, packed a bag, booked a cheap Airbnb across town, tried to sleep somewhere normal. But on the second night away, I heard it again. 3 barks, pause, 3 barks, pause. Not in the apartment, from the alley outside my window. I pulled the curtain aside slowly, already knowing what I'd see. It was standing under the street lamp. The dog, if I could still call it that, just staring up at the window, mouth open. No breath, eyes too wide. I didn't go home. I called animal control. They told me they'd send someone by, but when I followed up the next day, they had no record of the report. I called the landlord again. He told me I was stressing too hard and suggested yoga. No one was listening. No one believed me. So I stopped telling anyone. A few nights later, I broke. I went back to the apartment, and that was the first time I noticed the smell. It hit me the second I opened the door. Wet carpet, metal, something else, something deep and animal, like skin left under a heat lamp. I opened every window, walked the whole place with a knife in one hand. Nothing there. Until I checked the utility closet in the back of the kitchen, the one I never used, the one with the old access panel behind the water heater. The panel was open, just a crack, like someone had crawled through from the inside. And inside, scratched into the metal, was a sentence, not written, carved. "He let me in." I moved out the next morning, didn't even break the lease, just left the keys on the counter and got the hell out. I thought it was over. Thought putting space between me and that building would kill whatever was attached to it. But last night, I heard it again. I'm staying with a friend now. Different side of the city. Top floor condo with no pets allowed and sealed windows. But at 3:22 a.m., I woke up to panting in the hallway. Same rhythm. Same hollow sound. I held my breath and stared at the door. And then, from the other side, clear as day, "Let me in. I'm your dog now." I didn't open it. I won't. But this morning I noticed something. The doormat here, the one my friend keeps perfectly aligned, had been flipped upside down, and underneath it, 4 tiny scratch marks, fingers,